Welcome everyone to our JUMUN workshop. In this mini workshop, we will try and provide some insights into MUN, uh, elaborate on some of the rules and procedures, and give some very brief tips, particularly for the delegates coming as first-timers. Now, generally about what UN is, it was formed in 1945 with the aim of bringing more stability to the world in general after years of destructions that the World War One and the World War Two had brought. Countries came together to decide that we need an international body that can help to mediate conflicts and bring a long-lasting peace to the world. Now, the way UN operates is that it has six principal organs. Oftentimes in MUN, you would find General Assembly, which is the largest one among all, with 193 UN member states, all of them included. Um, on the other hand, Security Council is much more special with its rules and procedures. It is much more smaller also with only 15 member states in every single rotation. And among them is our five permanent member states who have veto power, a special voting power which allows them to outvote any solution or proposal that they do not like. And UNSC is also very special because it has legally binding um, resolutions. So if any solution were to be passed, it is an imperative among any member state to follow them. Whereas other committees in general don't have that power. And ECOSOC is also one of the more common committees we find in MUN, and it is not as large as UNGA and not as small as UNSC, but somewhere in the middle, with 54 member states, which and they mostly focus towards issues related to sustainability. And lastly, ICJ is also sometimes founded in MUN conferences, although not as common as the other three. Now, a little bit about the rules of procedures of MUN. Um, Regarding the rules of procedures, before we delve into that, we have four key players within the conference: chairs, delegates, and advisors are special for this conference, as they will be assigned to overlook any issues that might occur or just observe the conference proceedings in general and help out if any problem occurs, either within the chairs or the delegates or any other issues. Now, about the rules and procedures and how the committee would flow, we would begin the conference with a voting procedures. Each committee session would bring with a each committee session would commence with a uh, roll call, not a voting procedure. And delegates could either respond to signify their presence. They can respond by saying present or present and voting. If you say present, you are granted the ability to abstain from any matters, whether substantive or procedural, to abstain from voting on them. Whereas if you say present, if you signify your presence as present in voting, you must vote in those situations. And another key part of the whole conference is the speakers list, or also known as the general speakers list. It is a formal part of the debate. However, it grants the autonomy to delegates to talk about anything in general related to the topic, and there's no restriction in terms of what you can talk about. And it's a good chance to give suggestions on what we should proceed with the debate that we're having, how we should proceed next. And now on to more formal forms of debate. We have moderated caucus, which is much more formal, as each delegate has to focus on a specific topic of the issue that has been set by the motion that was proposed. And the delegates also have to speak within a time limit. However, the most informal session within the committee sessions is unmoderated caucus, and it grants the delegates the autonomy to walk around freely and talk to anybody that they like. And it is expected that delegates are using this time wisely to discuss solutions, form alliances, form blocks also, and to write working papers and draft resolutions. And we would elaborate more on them, working papers and draft resolutions, shortly in some time. And now consultation of the whole is in the middle in terms of formality, although it's relatively informal compared to moderated caucus because delegates can speak uh, with unrestricted time limit, and they can also choose who chooses to speak next. If one delegate is finished speaking, he can assign another delegate to speak, and if that delegate accepts that yield, then they can speak for however long as they like until the whole motion comes to an end. However, it's expected that the delegates are being concise and being meaningful within the debate, whether they're being moderated or not in the committee sessions. And to know more about what motions and voting are, these are basically the way you can propose something and decide where we should go next as the committee or what we should be debating on. So motion is basically a very formal way for delegates to propose something to the committee. For example, if one delegate wishes to go into moderated caucus where they can discuss on a very specific topic that they like. However, if another delegate would prefer that the whole committee goes into unmoderated caucus and writes the working paper, then these two opinions can be both considered at a time by the chair, and then they would put it up for voting. And the motion with most votes passes, and the committee would go into that motion. Now, within unmoderated caucus, as mentioned earlier, delegates are expected to form blocks, which are basically groups of countries with similar ideas and similar stances. And these countries work together to write the working papers and propose solutions to the issue at hand. Now, working papers are much more informal compared to draft resolutions. These are written by collaborative effort by all the block members, and it can be much more informal, and it will not be debated upon or graded, but it's rather just for your reference to uh, make notes in the discussion. However, once your delegates are done writing the working papers, then they are expected to use all their discussions that have been noted down in working paper to produce a draft resolution. And draft resolution is much more formal. It includes a heading, a committee name, sponsors, signatories, and the topic that you want to propose. And afterwards, you have to list some preambulatory clauses. Preambulatory clauses can be simplified into sort of the aims or the vision that you want to uh, carry out by producing that draft resolution, or basically what is the aim of the or the vision of the block. And you can have more than one preambulatory clauses. And the core of your resolution are the operative clauses. These clauses are basically statements that formally state the solution that you want to propose. Um, and it is very likely that you would need to further elaborate on a statement. So after you have proposed a main clause, you're allowed to elaborate on them by having subclauses, which can further elaborate on how the solution you propose can be achieved. And that is the headings, the preambulatory clauses, and the operative clauses is what is constituted by your draft resolution. And after your draft resolution is done, then it will be further debated upon. And when the resolution comes into debate, one of the motions that delegates can propose are amendments. amendments is a way for delegates to add something or delete something or change something within the draft resolution that is being discussed. So if you do not like something that has been written, or you would like it to be slightly removed or slightly changed, and you would like to add something else, you can do that during the formal debate, draft resolution debate session. And if you can convince everybody that the amendment should pass, and your amendment receives majority votes, then that will apply onto the draft resolution paper as well. Now, how are these draft resolutions written? These are supposed to be written through the collaborative works of all delegates, and you're supposed to note down um, sort of the key the key sort of aspects of the issue and how they should be resolved. And the last proceeding of the whole debate are the voting procedures on the draft resolution. Once all the draft resolutions have been entertained by the chairs, um, the committee session would go into a closure of debate, and voting procedures would take place. And when that happens, all delegates who have signified their presence as present and voting must vote within the voting procedure period, and the resolution with the majority votes would pass. Now, and when the resolutions are voted upon and that proceeding ends, then the whole conference and the debate would come to an end. Now, just few notes to the delegates that are particularly coming as first timers is that delegates should take into consideration the interests of their countries and prioritize that as the key thing that should be discussed. As one of the things that you'll be graded upon by the chairs is how well you represent your country and how well you sort of convince everybody to implement the priorities of your country. And in order to achieve that, negotiation and compromise is of course needed. More tips and advice that delegates are expected to be enrolled. That is why we mentioned that you should prioritize your country, and you should maintain yourself throughout the conference as if you are the representative of that country. Now, when you come up to speak and you would like to convince other delegates, make sure your arguments are solid. And the way to do that is you present a lot of evidence. If there's concrete, even if there's not a lot of evidence, if the evidence is concrete, for example, you can have some convincing statistics. You can reference some past historical events or past resolutions. And that would always help to solidify the argument that you're trying to make and present you as an overall more convincing delegate. And it is also expected that those first timers are usually prone to being more nervous. Therefore, we encourage that you could try and lay out all the key points of speech that you'd like to, before you deliver your speech, you have your key points written out. Although usually you don't have time to write a impromptu speech on the spot because it's mostly very impromptu. During the debate session, as you do not know what is going to happen later, what exactly will happen. Therefore, we encourage those first timers to have a sort of structure, key points written out before you go up to give a speech, in order to avoid any sort of mishappenings if you think you're prone to that. We also encourage delegates to listen carefully during the speeches and also during informal sessions, so you can understand the points of other countries. And if you would like to, even if they do not, they're not allies to your country, you should still listen to them and try and refute them, refute their arguments or refute their stances when it's your turn to speak. And in order to summarize what constitute a good speech, although just using a rule of thumb, this is not exactly pinpointed, but a good speech should have a strong point. It should have some concrete evidence and a solution or a call to action in order to convince the delegates that they should follow this action plan in order to solve the issue at hand. That is it for this mini workshop that we have organized. And we would like to thank our partners, Hong Kong Baptist University, Model United Nations Club, for helping us in hosting this conference as well. Should you have any questions or would like to seek further clarifications on rules of procedures or anything in general regarding the conference, feel free to reach out to us as the executive committee, or feel free to reach out to your chairs, which you can do through the WhatsApp or our emails as well. And we look forward to seeing you at the conference.